Okay, so there you just heard me play what I think of as being the chromatic diminished pattern. You know, it's got these chromatic movements, and they're all separated by minor thirds, which are the equivalent of the diminished arpeggio. So let's kind of walk through it, and I'll talk to you about application for this in a minute. But it's a really cool sounding pattern, and I think I've probably heard Sonny Stitt play some, maybe just a little bit of this in one of his solos or something. I know I've heard the sound a number of times. So I was looking for something to practice the other day, and I started fishing around with this idea, and I found several patterns that are really kind of based on this. But the one I'm going to show you today is the one you just heard me play. Let me play it a little slower. And you can probably hear the diminished sound. So that's where I would recommend starting, is by playing these minor thirds. Now, this one I'm doing based on a C diminished arpeggio. I'm thinking C because it's the bottom of the horn. But if you're familiar with these diminished arpeggios, you know C diminished arpeggio is the same as E flat and F sharp and A. So let's begin by starting on the high E flat, and let's just kind of set our parameters for this pattern. So E flat, C, A, and F sharp, and then that series of intervals or that series of tones just repeats downward. So there I've run the full range of the instrument. Now what I want to do is take each two groupings of these notes. Let's think of these notes in groupings of two anyway. So E flat and C. So I've got E flat and C. I'm going to play chromatically from the lower of the two, that's the C, chromatically from the C up to the E flat. Now the next two tones, C and A, that's our next cell. We'll play from A to C chromatically. Our next two notes, A and F sharp. F sharp is the lower of the two. I'll play chromatically from F sharp to A. The next two notes, F sharp and E flat, so I'll play from the lower one, E flat, chromatically to the F sharp. So that really covers all of the unique groupings that we'll use. Of course, we go through the full range of the instrument, so we continue those same groupings down into the lower mid-range and lower range of the instrument. But when I put them together, you can hear that we've got this really neat sounding pattern. Now, the rhythmic placement of the notes I think is very important. So why don't we think of starting each cell or each grouping in a syncopated position. So I've got my metronome here. I've got it set at 100. And I'm going to play this pattern in eighth notes at 100. So I'm going to start between clicks on an upbeat, between clicks, and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So listen to it at that tempo with the metronome. And of course, you notice I had to breathe in there, so I just left a note out to breathe. Another way you could do it is you could add a beat when you have to breathe. Okay, so we want to continue the syncopated placement, even if we play it swiftly. So I'm gonna double time it, but it'll be like E and a 2, E and a 3, E and a 4, E and a 1. So it'll be on the second 16th note in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. So let me do it again, and I've still got my metronome set at 100, so you might want to work your tempos. I've practiced it a little bit, so you might want to work your tempos starting at whatever tempo you need to get this accurate. Of course, you work your notes out first, but then eventually you want to have it up to 16th notes. And there, it's a little easier to do in one breath when you're doing it that tempo. So here's the thing. Anytime you have these patterns that are based on this kind of symmetrical sort of interval, the symmetry that's involved in playing the minor thirds like this or the diminished, there are always three keys that really three unique keys that altogether they each one include four, maybe we could call mini keys or four sets of keys within each one of them. So you just step up a half step, start on C sharp, and you have a whole new set of intervals, a whole new chromatic, this whole new set of parameters, and we're still working chromatic. We could start up on the high D. And of course, you go all the way through the full range of the horn. You don't need to listen to me practice to do this. So this is a great pattern for building technical fluency with the chromatic scale. You also build good tonal control and flexibility because you have the larger skips, the tritone skips. So you have the larger skips in there that really require good voicing skills internally and good articulation, no jaw movement, those sorts of things, fundamental things that you know about. You're also developing harmonic fluency with these minor thirds that are kind of built around the diminished scale and the chromatic scale. All kinds of really cool things you're working on right there. Not just the pattern, but there are a lot of subtopics within the pattern that you can think about developing. Now, let's think about how this might relate to diminished chords. Diminished chords are easy, because each one of the tones within our parameters, each cell represents a different diminished arpeggio. So you've got the C diminished arpeggio, the E flat diminished arpeggio, the F sharp diminished arpeggio, the A diminished arpeggio, or those specific chords. But we can also think of this in relationship to dominant 7 chords, and specifically dominant 7 flat 9s, but a lot of this vocabulary works on just regular old dominant chords, whether they have the flat 9 or not. The exception might be the dominant 7 sharp 11, but just a plain old unaltered dominant chord pattern would work great, but you don't start on the root. That's the thing. The way I'm thinking about it is starting on the 5 of each dominant chord. So when I start on C, I'm thinking an F dominant, C. So there we played C to E flat, that's 5 to 7, A to C, that's 3 to 5, F sharp to A, that's flat 9 to 3, and E flat to F sharp, that's 7 to flat 9. Of course, we could start anywhere on that F7 dominant chord. We could start on the flat 9, we could start on the 3, we could start on the 5, we could start on the 7, and we find the same collection of cells that work within it. Same thing if we started on the A, we could think of it in relation to a D dominant chord. If we start on the F sharp, we could think of it in relationship to a B dominant chord. And if we start on the E flat, we could think of it in relationship to the A flat dominant chord. All the same numbers apply. It's 5, 3, flat 9, and 7 on whatever dominant chord you're thinking of at the moment. Great pattern for building, harmony skills, technique, again, tonal flexibility and control, good chromatic technique on the chromatic scale. A lot of times we just play the chromatic scale from bottom to the top. Now, you might be familiar with the term bebop chromaticism. Now, bebop chromaticism, I don't think of this as really so much being bebop chromaticism in the term that we typically think of with neighbor tones and enclosures, things like that. That's where I think of bebop chromaticism. I just think of this as chromaticism in general. So take this one to the practice room and wear your chops out with it. Hey, it's Randy Hunter here, and I almost forgot to mention that if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel right here. Also, if you'd like to check out my full-length jazz improvisation lessons, many of them have written files. Most of them have written files also in addition to the videos. Many of them have MP3 play-along tracks as well. You can go to the Jazz Improv Lessons page or just the lessons page of beginningsax.com. And if you're a real jazz improvisation nut, that and would like to have full access to all of my lessons, including the ones I'm currently working on with, all of the files, video and written and MP3 play-along tracks, everything, just subscribe to my subscription page at randyhunterjazz.vhx.tv. I've got hundreds of lessons. Hope to hear from you.